everybody. So this is going to be my work in progress for my entry into the Reallusion lip syncing contest. My entry was a clip from Moby Dick. I believe it was like the 1956 film. The clip is of a preacher. His name is Father Mapple, and he climbs up into his pulpit and he gives a sermon over Jonah getting swallowed by the whale. And it's a particularly weird movie and a weird clip. It's great. It stars Orson Welles as Father Mapple. Here it is. He comes in and he climbs up, and here he is in the pulpit. And the pulpit is actually a boat that overlooks all of the church. And then he proceeds to give his sermon about Jonah and the whale.
The sin of Jonah was in his
This is a great shot. It's got the little rope. I'll come back to that later.
Hard command.
So I decided I was going to do this particular scene, 30 seconds of a clip from here. So I recorded the audio out of it and I selected the 30 seconds. And my next step was to create a character. Now, the time that I spent on this was probably about, 5 to 8 hours working on the character over a course of a weekend, and then another weekend I spent probably 5 to 8 hours working on the scene itself. So first off, we'll go over the character. Very quickly, I'll show you kind of the evolution of this character. It started off here. This was one of the default characters within iClone. It looks a lot like Brad Pitt. And I needed clothes for him. And I found I don't often go outside of Reallusion. I know lots of people can go get their dad's clothing or whatnot, but for me it's easiest just to stay inside. And they had this assassin's jacket, right? I got the assassin's jacket base for about $5, and then I saw Allie, iClone Allie had some 1800 suits that were based on it, and so this is the basic suit. And I made a few changes, turned it blue, and from there, I didn't want my preacher to be bald. I ended up using this hair from Toko Motion. It was in one of the packs that I had bought previously, and I made some adjustments to his face. Here he's pretty skinny. I added the beard. Here, his nose is gotten a little bigger. He's a little older here, and then finally with this one. He's starting to look a little more like the Orson Welles. Now, I didn't use Orson Welles. Ordinarily, I might use face shot, but it was hard to find a picture of Orson Welles that would have worked on an iClone character. So I basically just kind of winged it inside Character Creator. The beard and brows pack came in handy. One of the things that really sold the character for me was his old and bushy eyebrows. This is one that you had to buy. It wasn't one of the free assets. And the beard itself, some of the stuff that I liked about the beard and brow set is the ability to use the ability to select the two colors, the begin and end colors for the strands of hair. So it could begin gray and go black, or there's a little bit of blackness inside of here. But overall, I think he came together pretty well. Put him together. And let me just check my notes here to make sure I'm not missing anything. I've shown the 3 characters. All right, so let me open up the actual scene. Okay, so that was the character. Like I said, I spent probably 5 to 8 hours working on the character. And then I exported him into iClone. Once he was there, I wanted to set up the scene, and like I mentioned here, one of my favorite things about this scene is the boat pulpit. And so in order to create something like that, let's see if I can get more of a shot of it here. Sorry, my son's in there making noise. So it looks kind of like this. I went into Blender. I've got some basic Blender skills, and I made a prop that looks a little bit like this. It's not perfect, but it was close enough. It probably took me an hour and a half, 2 hours to whip this up as a pulpit that I could use. I exported it into iClone, waiting for my project to load. Here we go. And there it is. I put it into the scene. I added the room. I added this room and put in some of the textures. I pulled in a little pulpit, added some of these things on the wall. You'll see inside the video itself, they've got various little items hanging on the wall. So I created a basic set of it. But the reality was I didn't use a lot of the set because this is a lip sync contest, and so a lot of my shots are up close and you don't get to see a lot of it. But like I mentioned before, that shot where let's see if we can find it, that one right there, I wanted something like that where you could see the rope, and so I set up several camera shots. One of them is a little bit similar. Okay, so basically I created the set, made the pulpit in Blender. The ropes that go on the pulpit, you can see those here. Those are from a free prop prop that Rampa gave out. It was a posable vine or a posable rope. So I added that inside Blender, inside iClone itself. And then the lighting, just basic 3-point lighting. I took the key light and it's basically coming straight down on him, so to let the shadows just come straight down at a 90-degree angle. I added this book prop. You can see it here. I thought about having him turn the page at some point, but it wasn't necessary. So that's basically the scene itself. From there, once the scene was created, I pulled the recording into the scene and set about trying to use Acculips. Acculips was pretty cool. I thought that was it's a pretty good improvement over the old lip sync technology that they had. You basically pull in the scene, you go into the motion. We come down here to, where is it? We come down here to create script. You'll see your Acculips here, and you can open it up and load it in here, and I'm going to show you what it looks like once you do. Let me just go click on cancel. Click on the Visme. There we go. Okay, so here you can see once it's loaded, it's going to basically spell out all the words that he's saying. There were a few words that were misspelled. I was able to change them, and then you're lining things up, and as you go through, you can see whether or not he's actually, if they're aligned correctly. All right, that's all basic stuff. Once you've got your alignment, you hit apply, and it comes down here. Now, the part that I found particularly helpful, it loads all as one Visme. If you right-click on it, you've got this thing called the Talking Style Editor. And I'm not going to play around with these parts of the Visme, but the part that I like is the presets. So if you open up the Talking Style Editor, you have these presets, and the presets go from Global 100 to Global 200. Each one is a little more emphasis in how he's speaking, and then you have speak fast, speak normal, speak slow, bellowing, enunciating, all the way to yelling. And I'm going to play this real quick because it's an interesting clip. It starts out with him talking, but there's a part in here where he really gets into the
But
yelling.
soon the sea rebels. It will not bear the wicked burden. A dreadful storm comes up. The ship is like to break. The bosun calls all hands to lighten her. Boxes, bales, and jars are clattering overboard.
So around here, let's switch to here. You can see it a little better with my close-up. There we go. So this is all, what I had to do was I had to cut the Visme into 3 parts because I wanted 2 of the parts to be more regular speaking, and the third one where he's actually shouting to be, I think I used bellowing. So you can see it starts right here, and you'll notice, like, if you watch the way he's speaking up to that point, it's a little more normal.
A dreadful storm comes up. The ship is like to break. The bosun calls all hands to lighten her. Boxes, bales, and jars are clattering overboard. The wind is shrieking. The men are yelling. I fear the Lord, cries Jonah, the God of heaven who hath made the sea and the dry land.
And then I set it back down to a regular voice.
Again, the sailors mark him.
So I thought that was a pretty cool feature, the ability to change his emphasis, which basically is how wide he's opening his mouth and speaking. From there, once I'd done the Acculips part, I added some expressions, split the Vismes. Okay, and then I needed a motion, right? Generally, the animations, I don't have any motion capture, so I rely on pre-made animations for the most part. I've kind of gotten a little bored of some of the older motions, and I was hoping I could find something new. I ended up going into Actor Core. Actor Core is pretty neat. Let me see if I can find it. I had it open a minute ago. No, there we go. Okay, so I like that they have a pretty good preview here. You can zoom in and try and imagine your character using that particular clip. I was able to find one that I hadn't seen before. It was about 30 seconds, so it worked really well for this particular clip. I know Reallusion's adding a lot of new packs, a lot of new motion packs with a lot of motions. It's nice to be able to select individual motions, even though $2 and $6 is a little pricey, but it is what it is. So Actor Core was a nice little feature. I was able to get one particular motion for this particular project, pull it in. Once I had the action, okay, so my three parts of the animating, I pulled in the new motion, which was his whole body, and then I used the direct puppet to animate his head. So this was separate from that motion. The motion's still playing, but not that one. Sorry, that's what you want is the rotate. There we go. So now he's looking back and forth to his congregation, and you'll see that. You don't want to go too far. So that was my next step, and so the motion was still there, but you can see his head. I'm actually puppeteering his head back and forth as he looks back and forth. And then once I did that, I actually went into the face puppet, and I just grabbed the eyes by themselves. All I wanted to do was just animate the eyes, and I did that through these solo features, I believe, eyes alone. And I animated the eyes so that they weren't just in the center of his head as his head turned. So if you watch through the clip, his eyes are actually moving around a little bit.
Wicked burden. A dreadful storm comes up. The ship is like to break. The bosun calls all hands to lighten her.
So there was three basic steps. I laid in the motion, then I animated his head, and then I animated his eyes. And then finally, I laid in a couple of expressions just from the face key. Allows you to set an expression at various points within the timeline. So, and actually with the new this EX Plus, they have better kinds of motions in here. So those were nice to see. So sorry about that. I was able to animate, lay in some expressions. From there, the next steps I used, so one of the things that was interesting about the movie itself was they overlaid a black and white version of the movie on top of the color, because what the way that they wanted it to look was like what they said was, in order to create a visual effect reminiscent of old whaling prints, a black and white print was superimposed on a color print. And you can see it's got really kind of an old-timey feel here. I wanted to get something like that. I ended up using the LUTs, the lookup tables. Those are for color grading or color. And let's get rid of that. You can see I used a number of them in here. Without it, it looks like this. And I actually
bales and jars.
I actually cut both versions to see which one I liked more. In the end, I think I liked the effects that I laid on it to try and get kind of more of an old-timey vibe. Sepia, it's using a fair amount of sepia in there. So those are also available in the marketplace, the Reallusion marketplace. Besides the lookup tables, camera angles, I set up, this is the way I normally would work, is I set up a number of camera angles, and then I did all of my editing, if you will, inside on the camera switcher, right? So, oh, I'm sorry. Here we go. If I change it to switch, you can see how the different angles moving to a establishing shot. That's the scene I was talking about where you have the rope in play. And then back to your primary close-up. So that was basically it. Once I was pretty much done with the project. I added some people into the pulpit for the establishing shot. You can see them, I believe, here. Yeah. I took out the color on all the people. Some of them were wearing colorful shirts and whatnot. I took out the color. One of the things that I noticed after I was almost done was there was some poke through happening under his arms here. So all I did then, poke through is something that I think newer users think is, they think that they can't figure out how to get rid of it in a lot of cases. So when you notice poke through, the things that you have to do is you have to go back into Character Creator, and you need to open up the poses, and you need to set your character into different poses and look for any poke through that's happening. And if you find it, here's a little bit right there. And I'm not going to worry about it because it's not affecting my scene. But if you find poke through and you need to fix it, the way to do that generally is you'll go into the poke through that's happening here is actually happening in the shirt, the business shirt. And I have that highlighted. I would go into the edit mesh, and you can see right there, that's the one that I'm worried about. That's the vertex that I'm worried about. I would just highlight it. And then I can move it around. Let's see. See if I can move. There we go. And you just fix it, right? And so having fixed that one, you look around, and is there any other problems? I had problems in his underarm, and also some of it was poking out here. You highlight it, you move it around, and then when you're done, you select the edit mesh, and you check another pose. You want to check 3 or 4 poses until you get it right. Now, my project was practically done, and then I needed to make changes to him in Character Creator, and so all I needed to do, go back into iClone, make sure my character was highlighted. The character himself, notice here, it's not the character, it's his waistcoat. So I make sure my character himself is highlighted, go into Character Creator, go into File, Export, and send the character to iClone. And when you do that, it will replace the existing character in your iClone project. Okay? So that was just a little tip there for when you get poke through on your character. So that's basically the process I went through. Some of my last thoughts, like I said, Aculips was a pretty neat little enhancement that I wasn't thinking too much about. It just came up, free, hey, cool. And this project, this contest was a nice way for showing everybody that these new features were there. So I thought that was neat. Actor Core was pretty groovy. Character Creator's come a long way. I enjoy using it. As far as the animations, I think everybody knows that, I think motion capture is going to be the way of the future. It's just until it becomes more affordable, we do what we have to do. But motion capture would be the way that I would have done this, not having access to Actor Core and whatnot. But I don't have any of that equipment. So we'll keep our eyes on the motion capture equipment and see where that goes in the near future. Maybe I can afford it at some point. So that's about it. I hope that you enjoyed this little walkthrough. Good luck to everybody who's entered the contest. And that's it. Have a good one. Thanks.